Hey, welcome into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics, and doing so on a dreary Friday afternoon. And it's not the sports equinox, but we've got high school football and we've got high school basketball both going on tonight and this weekend. And unfortunately for me, I will be doing more of the latter because all of my teams in the former have been eliminated. Wade, what's up with you Friday night?
Friday night, manning the battle stations, checking on, went to a couple games down in Giles County last week, and unfortunately they're split. Giles County's on the road, so couldn't pull the double dip and see all the friends and fam this week. But you're right. We're kind of in that equinox, and for the basketball coaches of the world, they kind of, whether they admit it or not, are hoping some of their football teams get eliminated tonight.
Some more than others. I can tell you firsthand, actually. But I was at a ball game last night, Wade, and somebody said, "I know you. I've seen you with Wade Neely." I'm like, well,
That will get you. I'm already nervous where this is going to go, but at least you
well,
said it was at a ball game.
That was as far as it went. Fortunately for both of us, I guess. But yeah, your reputation obviously precedes you in some parts, and so
Where was this? That helps me narrow things down a little bit more. I got some priors in certain areas, so I got to be careful here.
Well, it was in reference to a certain black and gold team that you have already referenced once.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, those luckily all that's been expunged. So,
Okay,
but,
all
we
right.
get into some more outlying counties, then we got real issues.
Got a great show coming up this afternoon. In the second hour, we will be joined by our friend Christopher Gabriel from KMJ Radio out of Fresno, the biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi. And, he had to check in as UT gets ready to go to the Swamp this weekend. I'm sure he's got some thoughts. And I'm sure battered Vol syndrome is starting to ramp up here about 24 hours before kickoff. So we will be checking in with Christopher Gabriel in the second hour. In the next segment, we will be checking in with Noah MCKAY. You may know him as founder of Upper Cumberland Reporter, but in another role, he is also the play-by-play guy for Tennessee Tech football on the radio. And the Golden Eagles have a huge game this weekend in Cookeville as UT Martin comes to town for the OVC Big South Championship. And the folks in Cookeville would like nothing more than to take a little hardware out the door in their final season in the OVC. So we're going to check in with Noah, kind of get the pulse of things heading into this big tilt tomorrow between Tennessee Tech and visiting UT Martin. Looking forward to talking to Noah about that. We will also be talking a little Major League Baseball. We will get into some basketball, both professional and collegiate, and women's professional as well. We had some news come out just before showtime here. I'm looking for Wade's thoughts on. We'll talk a little NFL, Thursday night football last night. Interesting matchup. I didn't get to see all of it, but I got to see the end of it. Some big doings, non-game related, but big doings this morning in Nashville related to our local football team. Again, we've got Christopher Gabriel coming in the second hour, and we will wrap things up as we always do on Fridays during football season with the Wonder Slate. Wade and I will give you our 10 college football weekend winners. Do with them what you will. But I wasn't on last week, obviously, so I did make picks. I'm not real sure exactly how they came out, but
Don't look, Mo.
Okay, that's kind of what I was afraid of. All right, well, maybe
the good news
this
is
week will be better. We'll see how that goes.
The good news is we read them for you, so it's almost like you kind of didn't really even give them. We don't have the clips to go back and declare such measures.
I can. I've got plausible deniability, is what you're saying.
To an extent, you're covered. David, not so much. Not that I did necessarily great, but yeah, David is at least we certain fan bases of certain teams can go back and come for David Wilson if they want to next week. But you're kind of safe.
There we go. I like that. I like that. So that's what the lay of the land looks like here for the next couple of hours. Let's go ahead and jump in with both feet as we give you yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Rundown is here, ladies and gentlemen, and on a good, feel-good Friday, not good looking, but feeling good at least, we give you girls basketball action from last night. Clarksville Academy defeats BGA 44-35. Beach all over White House 58-20. Liberty Creek 66, Brentwood 54. It was CPA 1 point better than Providence Christian. 54-53 was your final. Clay County with a 45-43 win over Watertown. Coffee County 56, Franklin 48. Springfield with a 68-35 win over Gallatin. Good Pasture topping Rossview 57-33. It was Hendersonville 43, Portland 20. Hickman County with a 3-point victory over Columbia Academy 49-46. Houston County 56, Harpeth 38. It was Green Hill 80, Kenwood 32. Ezel Harding defeating Kirkwood 60-23. Nolensville edging out Laverne 69-24. And Westmoreland walloping Lawson 53-14. Smith County slipping by Loretto last night 54-46. Mount Juliet turning back Oakland 50-38. And Huntland defeating Mount Pleasant on the hardwood girls basketball action 38-12.
I think that Loretto score might be reversed, actually.
Lady Mustangs are hoping. We apologize if that's the case.
Yeah, I should be able to check that out here in just a second to let you know conclusively. But also, Nashville Christian with a 46-34 win over Livingston Academy. It was White County defeating Pearl Cone 56-48. Wilson Central 69, Ravenwood 36. Lawrence County with a 47-31 win over Riverdale. Shelbyville defeated Siegel 55-26. In a matinee yesterday, Columbia Central went over to Smyrna for an afternoon game and won 58-43. Summertown defeats Lincoln County 44-32. It was Giles County with a couple of late free throws from Ashland Coleman defeating Summit 43-42. Coverage both in the Pulaski Citizen and at MainStreetMurray.com. Tullahoma 42, Rockvale 38, and Sycamore with a 36 win over White House Heritage. In boys basketball action from Thursday night, Battleground Academy defeated Clarksville Academy 48-41. Beach with a 72-38 win over White House. Brentwood defeated Smyrna 80-58. It was West Creek 77, Cane Ridge 71. Clay County 10 points better than Watertown 51-41. Franklin defeats Coffee County down in Manchester 66-46. Christian with a 65-60 win over Grace Christian out of Franklin. Franklin Road Academy defeats Davidson Academy 52-38. Ensworth with a 74-48 win over Columbia Central. Ezel Harding defeated Antioch 68-45. Father Ryan downs Dixon County 76-49. Franklin Classical edges Battle Creek 67-63. Gallatin edges Springfield 67-65. Good Pasture with an 81-77 win over Rossview. It was Portland 54, Hendersonville 45, and Hickman County defeats Columbia Academy 65-60.
Other boys scores from last night. Brentwood Academy topping Hillsboro 55-51. Houston County edging Harpeth 54-48. John Overton with a 2-point victory over Maplewood 51-49. It was Green Hill 59, Kenwood 54. Kirkwood turning back Lawson 86-67. Nolensville picking up a big win 80-40 over Laverne. It was Loretto 40, Smith County 38. That one we know is good. MBA versus University School of Nashville, 81-45. East Nashville with an 85-29 victory over McGavock. Oakland 69, Mount Juliet 48. Merrill Hyde 61, Mount Juliet Christian 42. It's Mount Pleasant walloping Huntland last night, 70-59. It was Pope John Paul II with an 82-64 victory over the Tennessee Heat. Ravenwood 51, Wilson Central 42, Riverdale 56, Lawrence County 48. Shelbyville defeating Siegel last night, 79-71, beg pardon. Lincoln County 65, Summertown 56. Summit topping Giles County 66-37. Rockvale falling to Tullahoma last night, 70-57 was your final in that showdown. And capping our boys scoreboard from last night, White House Heritage 76, Sycamore 38.
In women's basketball, well, first of all, that score that we read was correct. Smith County's girls did beat Loretto 54-46.
There we go.
My bad. There we go. Women's basketball action from Thursday. Fisk with a 68-56 win over Voorhees. UT Southern with a 96-56 win over Mobile. Austin Peay defeated Chat 68-54. And Tennessee doubled up and then some. Middle Tennessee State 85-41 at the Glass House. In men's basketball action last night, Tennessee with an 89-60 win over Tennessee State. Vanderbilt defeated Texas Southern 109-74. In the association, the Memphis Grizzlies emphatically ended their 5-game skid, defeating Sacramento 137-96. More later in the show on that one. And Thursday night football on Amazon Prime last night, it was the Houston Texans downing Buffalo 23-19. And there are a couple of numbers that might indicate that game wasn't even as close as the score indicates. We'll talk more about that later as well.
Was a pretty good one for a Thursday night, I will admit. Football action on a Friday night now. Games starting a couple hours early as they occur over in East Tennessee, including Giles County at Tyner Academy. Lincoln County on the road tonight at Sevier County. BGA is at Boyd Buchanan. Now into 7 o'clock kickoffs. Maryville traveling to Blackman. CPA will be at Brentwood Academy. Lausanne at Franklin Road Academy. Centennials on the road this evening at Henry County, as we referenced on yesterday's show. East Robertson at Huntington. Pearl Cone and Marshall County. Yet again, we'll get it on in the postseason down in Lewisburg tonight at 7 p.m. East Nashville will be at Milan. Trinity Christian is on the road this evening at Nashville Christian. Green Hill traveling to Oakland. It'll be Beach at Page. USJ is at Providence Christian. McKenzie is on the road down at Richland in a rematch of last year's Single A quarterfinal. Springfield is at South Gibson. Ravenwood is at Whitehaven. Mo, before I turn it over real quick, first time in history of Giles County that Giles County and Richland have both made the quarterfinals. As
wow.
GCHS got eliminated around early last year. So
nice.
Good luck to both of those squads down there in my old stomping grounds.
Absolutely, and we will have coverage of both those games at PulaskiCitizen.com over the weekend, so be sure and check that out. High school basketball doubleheader action this evening. These are 6 o'clock starts as Lipscomb Academy travels to Columbia Academy. Santa is at Community. Cheatham County goes to Creekwood. Zion Christian is at Cullioca. Forest goes to Fairview. Glencliff is hosting Shelbyville. Station Camp is at Hunters Lane. Greenbrier making the long trip up to Gainesboro, taking on Jackson County. Brentwood is at Lebanon. Joe Burns goes to McEwen. Grady County travels to Murfreesboro Central. Hampshire is at Riverside Christian. Stratford hosts Maplewood. Montgomery Central goes to Waverly. Martin Luther King is at Antioch. Cascade is hosting Eagleville. In this East Hickman game at Richland will not be played because everybody will be outside at Wayne Hobbs Stadium for the football game. That game is actually tomorrow. So,
credit to the coaching staff for moving that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Good idea. Wait.
Yep, girls basketball girls basketball single game tomorrow at 6 p.m. Merrill Hyde at Liberty Creek tomorrow. Boys basketball showed today, beg pardon. Thank you. Boys basketball showdowns that get underway at 3:30 include Bartlett at Providence Christian, 7:30, a more conventional start time for West Creek at Chattanooga Prep. Look for Liberty Creek at Merrill Hyde and Independence at Stewart's Creek. Women's basketball action. Vanderbilt is already in the books with a 92-38 victory over Alabama State this morning. Men's basketball games coming your way tonight at 6:30 on ESPN+. First, you got Fisk at Belmont, and then you got Austin Peay at Tulsa. 6:30 and 7 are those respective start times. High school basketball double headers beginning at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Clarksville Northwest at Gallatin. Hillsboro will be at Lipscomb Academy. That starts at 1:30. 2 p.m. showdown now for Franklin Christian, who's at Nashville Christian. Wilson Central is at Clarksville Northeast. Mount Juliet is taking on Cookeville at 3 o'clock. Look for Franklin County at BGA also at 3. Other 3 o'clock tip-offs include Clarksville Academy at Kirkwood, STEM Academy at Macon County. 4 o'clock, Portland will be at Gallatin. Columbia is traveling to Loretto at 6. Also at 6, Bradley Central will be at Middle Tennessee Christian, and Liberty Creek will be at Mount Juliet. And as we mentioned a moment ago, rescheduled from tonight to tomorrow, East Hickman will be at Richland beginning at 6 p.m.
These are girls only matchups here at 9 o'clock. Friendship Christian travels to Macon County. At 3 o'clock, Summertown takes on Page down at Coffee County. At 4:30, Providence Christian is at Silverdale Academy down in Chattanooga. At 6, Oneida faces Laverne. Not sure where that game is being played. Ditto for Green Hill and Livingston Academy at 6. And Girls Preparatory out of Chattanooga plays at Christ Presbyterian. Not clear on the time there. Boys basketball single games at 12:30 back down at Coffee County at Summertown and Webb out of Bell Buckle. At 2 o'clock, Upperman faces Page at Coffee County. Providence Christian travels to Baylor for a 2 o'clock matchup. Also at 2, Tennessee Heat boys are at Brentwood Academy. At 3 o'clock, Friendship Christian faces Liberty Creek. Beach plays Coffee County at 3:30. South Gibson is at Dixon County at 6. And time unknown for Clarksville Northeast and Portland. College basketball doubleheader tomorrow at 12 noon. UT Southern goes down to Montgomery, taking on Faulkner. And at 1, Talladega comes to Fisk. Women's basketball game at 2 o'clock over in Lebanon. It's Kentucky Christian at Cumberland. And in a couple of men's matchups tomorrow, Trevecca travels to Tusculum for a 3 o'clock game. And West Carolina is at Lipscomb. That game can be seen on ESPN Plus, but I'm not sure what.
Let's roll to college football for tomorrow. Got a couple local games to tell you guys about, including TSU is going to be at Charleston Southern. That game is at 1 o'clock, and you can see it on ESPN Plus. Also on the Plus tomorrow, Sam Houston will be at MTSU. Kickoff comes your way at 2 o'clock. At 2:30 on ESPN, Kentucky will be at Vanderbilt. Austin Peay is at Tarleton State at 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And 6:30, a night game down in the swamp for the Tennessee Vols on ABC. Once again, Tennessee at Florida tomorrow night on ABC at 6:30. NHL, the Preds are finally back in action, but taking on the Avalanche tomorrow. Puck drop comes your way at 7 p.m. You can catch it on FanDuel Sports South. Also tomorrow at 7:30, the Grizz will take on another Western Conference fellow cellar dweller when they visit the Dallas Mavericks. 7:30 will be your tip-off time. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports South. Women's basketball action on Sunday. Standalone games are TSU at Vanderbilt. That game gets underway at noon on SEC Plus. Also on SEC Plus, Coppin State will be at Tennessee and also beginning at noon. Austin Peay is going to be at Southern Illinois at 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus in that women's only slate. And Emory and Henry will be at Trevecca at 2 o'clock. MTSU will be at Murray State in a men's basketball showdown at 6:30. And as we will reference a little bit later, the Seahawks and the Titans will get it on Sunday at Nissan Stadium at noon. And that game will be shown on Fox. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of your Friday schedule, weekend schedule, as it were, your Thursday results. And that concludes today's rundown.
Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. It looks like the Tampa Bay Rays will be back in familiar surroundings for the 2026 season as repairs to the roof at Tropicana Field have been completed. Those repairs necessitated by damage from Hurricane Milton in October of 2024 that left the Tampa Bay Major League Baseball team playing its games at Steinbrenner Field, a spring training facility in Tampa. So over the 25 season, they will be back in Tropicana for 26. They are now under new management as well, new ownership. And, there was a lot of question, a lot of concern about whether to fix Tropicana when they were trying to get a new stadium anyway, but everything has been taken care of with the roof. They are now working on internal repairs, but they are expected to open their season at home on April 6th against the Chicago Cubs. They'll start the season on the road, but the Tampa Bay Rays will be back in Tropicana for the upcoming season.
Good news, makes you feel kind of warm and fuzzy, that they kind of rallied those Rays fans who do exist. We saw Eric Henry in a hoodie last week rocking some support for the local squad. But yes, those that do exist, they desperately maybe wanted to keep the franchise there, and they desperately wanted to keep them in the digs that they'd grown attached to. So good job. And, with the sale, there was obviously some questions of what would happen? What would be the stadium future? What would be the franchise future? Seems like everything's going to be kind of status quo, and hopefully, this is kind of a nice little bow on what was really a scary situation, not just for the stadium, but obviously the community and surrounding areas, but then also for the franchise. So about as good as it realistically could have ended, you would think.
The Rays went 41-40 at Steinbrenner Field, sold out 61 of those 81 games, but experienced 17 rain delays over 16 games. So one of those games got delayed twice. And as we mentioned, the new ownership is still efforting to get a new facility in the area that could open in 2029. So stay tuned as far as that goes. But at least 2026, again, is squared away for the Rays. They will be back in Tropicana Field in St. Pete for the upcoming season. Let's take a break as we get rolling here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be joined by Noah McKay of the Upper Cumberland Reporter to talk a little Ohio Valley Conference football. Stick around.
Closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm ready, guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely, as we await the arrival of Noah McKay from the Upper Cumberland Reporter to talk a little Tennessee Tech and UT Martin this weekend. Big matchup in the Ohio Valley Conference / Big South, as the winner will be your champion. And UT Martin kind of defending the honor of the Ohio Valley Conference, because Tennessee Tech, as we talked to Casey Fox back over the summer, will be leaving the conference at the end of the school year to join the Southern Conference. So, it's been fun, Tech, but, it'll be interesting, I think, to see how that goes. Tech has been a nationally ranked program all season. I've seen 4, I've seen 6. I'm not sure where they are this week, but regardless, it's been a great season, even with that loss up at Kentucky this past weekend, which I don't know what else you would have expected with an FCS program going against a Power 5 program. But looking forward to, again, checking in with Noah here in just a bit and kind of taking the pulse of this team both as over this season and heading into this matchup.
Yeah, it should be fun. And like you said, kind of defending the honor here is UT Martin, and the Skyhawks will look to, try and claim victory here. But Tech, this will be fascinating because there's something to be said for that momentum factor. And yeah, it was an FBS opponent that you took on, but kind of restoring that juice and then jumping right back into such a critical game. That will be a massive, massive kind of mental study in my mind here. And that's why I'm so kind of curious to see how this game shapes up this weekend.
This team has played awfully well over the course of the season, like you said. But to your point, a mental makeup there is intriguing. How hard do you take that? How realistic are you about that? That kind of thing. So with that said, let's welcome in Noah MCKAY of the Upper Cumberland Reporter, who handles play-by-play duties for Tennessee Tech football. Noah, good afternoon.
My guy, Mo Patton, how's it going? Glad to be with you guys. About to head to beautiful Jasper for high school football, which is a little appetizer before probably the biggest game in Tennessee Tech history tomorrow. So it's exciting right now in Cookeville.
Noah, Wade and I were both talking, a tough loss, obviously, this past weekend up at Lexington for Tennessee Tech. But at the same time, they've still got a lot to play for.
Yeah, no question. Listen, this was a game that was scheduled before the athletic director and the current head coach got there, and they were not pleased, to put it lightly, that they even had to play this game at this time. They're not pleased that they had to play Mississippi State the same week next year, because the game was scheduled for money and not with the idea that Tech could be competing for a national championship. And so, they approached that game. They had kind of 2 plans. One was, if it's competitive, we'll do this. And the other was the second, and I mean the second, it started to get even remotely out of hand, everybody came out. Over 70 players played for Tech. Kentucky's last touchdown came against Tech's 3s. Kentucky starters were still out there, and it was Tech's deep reserves. And so Tech got out of there healthy. They got the check, but for them, all their attention, listen, they would have loved to beat Kentucky. They weren't trying to lose by any stretch, but they protected their quarterback, who's an out of this world player, and got out of there healthy and are as healthy as any FCS team in the country ahead of an outright conference championship game that's for a first round bye. So you hate losing, but they still have the longest FCS win streak in the country at 15 games. And it was really about 5 minutes after the game ended, everybody around the program, it was on to UT Martin, and thanks for the check from Lexington, and move on.
No, with that being said, as the game kind of unfolds, I would imagine the play calling and, if nothing else, like you mentioned, the depth in terms of your roster didn't probably reveal too much, because this was a wild kind of week to have that game scheduled, as you referenced a moment ago.
Yeah, no doubt. And the ironic part is Tech played very differently in that game, quite frankly, to protect their guys. Kekoa Vesperis, the quarterback, that he only was pressured once in the entire game because everything was quickly out of his hands or running the football. And with how the game played out, if Tech would have played their kind of typical style, they probably had a better chance to compete in that game. There was a moment where it was an 18-point game in the second half. Tech gets the ball, and they're still being very conservative, and that's very un-Tech-like this year. But they did that because, listen, even if you go and you lost to Kentucky by 7, but your quarterback gets killed, right, or your best wide receiver gets hurt, your season's over. and you lose everything else despite a win over Kentucky. So they approached it that way. And it's like I said, I mean, the second that it was insurmountable, everybody came off the field for Bobby Wilder, and the attention turned to UT Martin because they would have playing Kentucky's fine week 1 or week 2. Playing them this late in the season with the year that they're having was not advantageous for Tech.
With that being said, before we get back into the game, you mentioned that Mississippi State game next year. I mean, is there any talk, or has there been talk of any kind of last measures to either reschedule or, try and just wiggle out of that contract because of the success and the odd situation that you ran into this year?
Sure, they wanted to, they couldn't. And quite frankly, I would be, at least as long as this administration's here, this is the last time Tech's going to play an SEC team at any point in the season, especially with the new rev sharing days. So they tried. They did get out of. They were supposed to play James Madison early in this year. They got out of that game, but the SEC team's a little bit harder to get out of for Tech. So they're going to go to Starkville the same week next year. They still hope to be competing the way they have this year, and I imagine it'll be the same game plan. Get out of there healthy. If you can pull an upset, great, but you're not going to put your guys at risk against an SEC team. The benefit just isn't there.
All of that said, I feel bad for the guys that were on the field at the end for Tennessee Tech.
Oh, gosh.
Now, I will give Coach Stoops credit. Coach Wilder and Coach Stoops came together at the beginning of the fourth quarter and essentially had a discussion, and it was, hey, let's get out of here. Let's play it upright. Get, at the whistle, we're done. And Kentucky did that as well, to their credit. And so Tech got out of there with no injuries, which you'll take every day of the week against a team that big. But yeah, there were some young pups, Mo, that got out there and got to play at Kroger Field. And just say the size advantage was certainly on Kentucky's side in the fourth quarter on Saturday.
It kind of sounds like Daniel in the Lion's Den a little bit. I mean, you just kind of fed some kids to the wolves there late, but I mean, it's a team game, and you got to protect the guys that need protecting because they've got bigger fish to fry, and the grease gets awfully hot tomorrow when UT Martin comes to town.
It does. UT Martin, the game changes, and Martin's playing great football. They always are. They've won or tied for the conference championship 4 straight seasons. Jason Simpson does a really good job. He's the play caller for them. There is a buzz in Cookeville that, quite frankly, guys, listen, my parents went to Tech. I went to Tech. It's never been like this. Only half the stadium's open because they're renovating, and that's why all the games are at noon, because there's no lights right now. At least there's only lights on half the field, but that half is going to be packed. They're expecting standing room only, a huge amount of buzz. And this Tech team, listen, when we started doing the play-by-play, the most common question I got is, are they really good? And I was like, I think so. They're really good. They've proven that to the tune of 10-1, trying to become the first Tech team ever to win 11 games. And guys, if they win, you look at the path, they're going to be anywhere from probably a 5 to an 8 seed, which gives them a first round bye, gives them a home playoff game in the second round. They have a real path to the national semifinals, where then you hope you're on the other side from North Dakota State. But even so, this is a Tech team. They're not going to be intimidated by anybody. They have built through the transfer portal at an elite level, and you got to tip your cap. Bobby Wilder's done an unbelievable job with this program. It is not your mom's Tennessee Tech team. And I say that saying it's not my mom's Tennessee Tech team. It's a different program right now under this head coach and this administration.
This is Wilder's second year, right?
It is. He was at Old Dominion for several years. He's won everywhere he's been. He kind of led the transition from FCS to FBS for Old Dominion, from Maine originally. He's interesting. He came in, Mo, and, on social media, he does the videos every day, and you're kind of like, come on, is he really like that? And he's an elite football coach, and he's also an elite fundraiser. And that's the difference now for Tech. Came in, they raised a lot of money. The administration then embraced that and has really embraced football. He's the real deal. You don't just roll out of bed and win in a place like Tennessee Tech. You do not get to 10-1. The facilities are awful. We all know it. That's why they're rebuilding. It's awful. The coach's office right now is a trailer. And yet,
and that trailer is probably an improvement.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. And now the new facility is going to be great when it opens next year. Everyone's excited for it. But, this is not a place with a lot of tradition, but they have an elite coach. And then in 2025, they got in the portal. They have 45 transfer portal players who are playing. And there's some guys who were here last year, a guy like Theron Gaines, who may be the best FCS linebacker in the country. He was here a year ago. They moved him from the edge to Mike linebacker, and he's been unbelievable at that spot. But there's a lot of new faces. The quarterback, they have a receiver who they hope returns this week. We'll have to wait and see. Who is as good as he gets. He's a guy that could play on NFL Sundays, and Noah Robinson. This is a really stacked roster, and they did it the way you have to do it in 2025. You got to get in the portal and you got to raise some money.
Where, Noah, and I don't necessarily want you to be specific, but where did the money come from? Because I mean, again, I've been in this area all my life, and to your point, Tennessee Tech football has never been this. And I guess part of the reason was maybe nobody was out there beating those bushes in the manner that Bobby Wilder has in a short period of time. But I don't know that anybody realized that there were bushes to beat.
Sure. And to that point, he got on the phone, and nobody really has. And there has not been a commitment to athletics, let alone football, at Tennessee Tech for a while. And when I say that, I mean from a donor perspective. And the Golden Eagle Collective, they took it seriously. Coach Wilder, when he came in, he met with the administration, and Dr. Oldham, has said, he wrote an article today that's all over everywhere. He wrote an editorial talking about how football is the front porch of the university, and Tech took that serious. And Coach Wilder got on the phone and 24/7 was just beating those drums. And last year, they raised some money. They started a little slow. They almost beat Middle to open the season, and then went to Georgia and kind of
what that's worth.
Right. And they kind of got beat up a little bit, but then they won 5 straight games to end the season. And that was kind of a proof of concept for this Tech team. They got a share of the OVC Big South title. And then the collective has stepped up in a major way, and it is virtually all alumni. And they want a winner. And this, if you have a winning football team, people will write a check. And right now, and they have a tremendous program. They have these weekly sit downs where if you're in the collective, if you're in the quarterback club, they call it, you can come in. Coach Wilder, the GM, they'll sit there and they'll go through and tell you all about the team and kind of different things. And it's a cool behind the scenes experience. And they don't just talk about it, they are about it. And then it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because they got a big investment. They're really good. And that leads to more investment moving forward. So there's an excitement there, but everybody talks about it. Very few people are about it. Bobby Wilder got on the phone and sat down with people and sat down. I own a business up here. He's meeting with us without knowing anything about where we would end up being right now when it comes to the broadcast crew. Just everybody he could talk to, he was talking to, and then they've got a really good staff around him. And now they have real money. Now it's OVC Big South football, but they got real money in the OVC Big South. And by the way, they'll have real money in the SoCon next year when they go there.
Noah, with that being said, ultimate litmus test of Cookeville money and support, I guess. Have we got CrossFit legend Rich Froning on board to do anything with his alma mater there, the Golden Eagles?
I don't know for sure if Rich is, but I would assume that Rich is. I can guarantee this. He's been contacted several times. Everybody's in right now, and they play a fun brand of football, guys. Yeah. If you haven't watched this team play, it's not slow. They're going to get on the ball. They're going to air it out, run their RPOs. They got 5 backs they roll through. And so, yeah, guys like Rich, every business leader you have in this community, he's been contacted. I can promise you that.
And in this new world, quote unquote, new world of college football, it almost seems like that is the first step for a school like Tech in particular, more than anything. We can worry about getting the kids in later, but we can't even get them in if we don't have the money. We don't have kind of the rev sharing, goodies to go along with that, like you kind of referenced a minute ago.
Yeah, Wade, you're spot on. Listen, you can get lucky. You could have an unbelievable freshman recruiting class that ends up being really good and have a season or two that's awesome. That's not how you build a program in 2025 at the FCS level. If you do not have the financial investment and the commitment from the university now in the rev share era, you're not going to build consistent success. And, what Tech is trying to do, there is nobody, if you think about FCS football, there is nobody east of the Mississippi that has competed consistently with the Dakotas and with the Montanas. And Tech has sensed an opening, I think, on this side of the country to become that. Nobody would have thought that Montana State, right? You think about South Dakota State. They were less attendance than Tech would average 10 years ago. Look where they are now. Now they got really hurt this year and ultimately probably going to miss the playoffs, but they've been a national championship contender. Tech has sensed an opportunity to build that. And I would have laughed at that a year ago, but being around this program, they've got a real chance if they can keep some of these people to build a very, very good SoCon program now as they move into the Southern Conference. The standard bearer there for a while has been UTC, and Tech destroyed UTC the second week of the season, just obliterated them. So Tech has their sights set on building a program, not just having a tremendous season this year.
Noah MCKAY of the Upper Cumberland Reporter joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Noah, you addressed the money, but when I was at MTSU, Murray State had some fantastic basketball teams in particular, and nobody could figure out how you get that many athletes to come to Murray, Kentucky under any circumstance. I think Cookeville isn't Murray, but I think that's the other part of the equation. How have they managed to make Tennessee Tech an attractive destination for so many athletes?
Well, first of all, Cookeville is the best city on earth, so I'm just gonna put that out there, just so we're clear, Mo. This is my favorite place, so I won't speak ill on it. Now, I will say how this world has changed, and I know we were talking a lot about money, but it's true. A lot of these kids now, out of the portal in particular, especially with a one portal period that we're moving into now, don't even step foot on campus. It is an agent having a conversation. It's the school and the team saying, this is the amount of money and you can take it or not. And you can shop your options if you want to. It has become so transactional now. And now when it comes to the facilities, that has helped exponentially. And the other thing is just being honest. Facilities aren't very good, but we're going to play unbelievable football, right? And we're going to play a fun brand of football, and you're going to have an opportunity to get your name out there. And I think that's been the pitch with the facilities that are improving. We are 6 months away probably from being done with this renovated Tucker Stadium, which is going to be incredible. But now in a transactional age, a place without tradition historically in the program like Tech has an opportunity to compete if they have that money, because it's just, hey, we can pay you more than X school can. Oh, and you're going to have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. And I think that really is the pitch. They don't even get super into, back in the day, heck, when I was in school, it was come take your visit. And people do that. They do the game day visits, and we're going to show you all the cool spots around town. And they don't even do that a lot of the time, particularly within the transfer portal.
It is a different world for sure. Noah, we've talked about the Southern Conference. The Ohio Valley Conference has been through some transitions, I guess, here in the last bit. Again, Tech going to the Southern Conference, Arkansas, Little Rock leaving the conference. Southeast Missouri State came out not too long ago and said that they are, recommitting to the OVC. Where is the OVC right now, as far as you can tell? I mean, obviously there's enough concern for Tennessee Tech to leave after 75 years, but is the OVC in a bad spot, in a tough spot, in a vulnerable spot, do you think?
Yeah, I think they get a big boost by SEMO staying. Everybody that I've talked to gets the feeling that Martin's probably about to do the same thing. Those two have been viewed kind of as a package deal, UT Martin and SEMO. So that helps. With Tech, I know it caught a lot of people by surprise, but Tech's looking at the opportunity to travel to ETSU and Chattanooga as opposed to Macomb, Illinois, and out of Eastern Illinois, right? So they get some travel benefits and a little bit more prestige in the conference. So I think Tech was Tech is on that easternmost part of this conference, and I think that was a big part of it. But I think the OVC is in a moment where they're going to have to adapt or will be in trouble. And they did a little bit with this Big South alignment in football. I do wonder if these two conferences are destined to just become the OVC Big South, period. They're not in these other sports. It would be a large conference. We'll see how large that would be. But I think the OVC could be in a little trouble just because they've been caught on their back foot over and over and over again. And so we'll see with new leadership coming in at the top of the conference, but Jacksonville State surprised them. Tech surprised them. They fought hard to keep SEMO. They're going to keep SEMO at least for now, but the OVC, if they don't adapt, they could be in trouble because it's just a little bit behind what some of these other conferences can offer, let alone teams that want to jump not just to the SoCon, but up to Division I FBS like Jacksonville State did.
Noah, you're on the call for the games. I don't really want to ask you to make a prediction, but I'm seeing a number being hung, depending on where you shop, of 16.5 favoring Tennessee Tech. Let me just ask, what must Tech do well to win this thing on Saturday in your mind? Give me maybe a key or two to the game in that sense.
Sure. Tech was destroying people early in the year. Then they got a little bit banged up. They're pretty healthy entering this weekend. They played it, I think, fairly smartly. And so some of these gaps that were 40-point gaps have become 10, 11, 12. For Tech to, win this thing convincingly, which would be important. They're trying to impress some people. Yeah. They got to have a good start. They have been the best fourth quarter team in the nation this year. They have scored 264 points in the fourth quarter to, I think it's like 20 for their opponent. It's an absurd number in the fourth quarter against FCS opponents. So because of their depth, you feel good about their opportunity in any sort of close game to win late. The key for them to really impress is a better start. They've been a little sloppy offensively, a little bit out of sync the past few weeks. If they can get a couple of guys back, particularly on their offensive line, there was a time where they're missing their left guard and their right guard, totally neutralized their running attack. That will help a lot. But if Tech can get a fast start and throw a knockout punch, it's what has evaded them. They had an opportunity at Eastern Illinois, up 14. They hit a perfect pass. Vesperis looks for Moy Sullivan. He looks up. The sun's right in his face, and he dropped it. Would have been a 70-yard touchdown. Next drive, exact same play, exact same result. Dropped it, right? They have not had that KO punch. If they can ride, will be a very hot crowd and get that knockout punch early. Tech could have a convincing victory. But give Martin credit. They have won these games 17-14, 21-17 by just hanging around. They did it last week against Charleston Southern. Just hang around, and then they score late. So I think that's their plan. And for Tech, they want to go ahead and throw a haymaker out of the gate about 5 minutes in and get maybe a 3-score lead and cruise into a conference title.
I don't know how much it gets discussed in Cookeville, Noah, but the FCS championship game just happens to be at First Bank Stadium on the campus of Vanderbilt University in January. And I feel like Scott Ramsey and the Nashville Sports Council would welcome a team within about a 2-hour drive with open arms.
It would be packed. I know for Tech, you really don't want to have to go west twice. Very few teams go west to the Dakotas or to Montana and leave with a win, let alone going there, coming back, going there. So for Tech's perspective, getting up to maybe that 6 seed, even that 5 line, where then all you need is maybe one thing to break your way and you'd only have to go to Montana once, would be very advantageous. But yeah, so we're very aware, Mo, that thing is an hour and 15 minutes away. But how about, and I think this is the ultimate testament to what this coaching staff and players have done. You just said in a non-joking manner about the national championship game, and we're talking about Tennessee Tech.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That's something that I don't think many people ever expected us to have the conversation. And whether it happens or not, it's not a crazy conversation to have.
Noah MCKAY of the Upper Cumberland Reporter, who moonlights as the play-by-play guy for Tennessee Tech football, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Noah, we appreciate your time, man. Have fun tomorrow. Enjoy it. And as hard as it is for an MTSU graduate, good luck.
Mo, I love you, man. Whatever you need, you holler at me. I got you. I appreciate you guys having me on. Wade, great to talk to you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Noah.
Hey, be safe going to Jasper.
I'll try. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will quickly jump into the grab bag. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Nashville's Nutcracker, presented by Nashville Ballet, returns to TPAC November 29th through December 28th. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets on sale at NashvilleBallet.com.
Weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. After about a 6-day layoff, the Nashville Predators are set to return to the ice tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. They've got the Colorado Avalanche coming in. The Predators sit at the bottom of the NHL Central Division standings at 6-10-4. That's 6 wins, 10 losses, 4 overtime losses. All the way up at the top of the Central sit the Colorado Avalanche at 14-1-5. Doesn't sound like a fun welcome back stateside for the Preds tomorrow night.
No, welcome back. And two could not be more stark in contrast, right? The Avs winners of 7 straight, a team that very much has aspirations of lifting Lord Stanley. Nate McKinnon, one of the absolute best in the NHL, versus whatever the Preds are this year. Best of luck on Saturday night.
Yeah. The Preds need a fish kind of like the Grizzlies got yesterday, as Sacramento came to the FedEx Forum and Memphis put a Bluff City beatdown on the Kings, 137-96. Memphis improving to 5-11 with that win. Kings losing their 8th straight game and falling to 3-13. Again, Memphis had lost its last 5 prior to last night. I don't know if it's as simple as Zach Edey rounding back into form. I think it's more like the Kings coming to town. But Edey was perfect from the floor and from the line, finished with 16 points in 24 minutes in his 3rd game back. Cedric Coward with 19 points, and Jemai Meshack went 2 for 4 from behind the arc, finished with 6 points in his NBA debut. So, something to be said for timing, but I mean, they are an NBA team, and so you take the win and you go on.
Yeah, you're right, Mo. And at least the Grizz kind of had some aspirations in the preseason, where Sacramento kind of, there's not a lot of buzz around that franchise. So even though they're both cellar dwellers, this was a nice little Beale Street beatdown last night. And, if only they could play the Kings every night. If only Santi Aldama could, go 5 of 11 every night. If only Edey could play this well every night. If only they could be broadcast on Channel 4 WSMV on the simulcast last night. That was the real treat, is you did not have to navigate the godforsaken FanDuel Sports app last night. That was the real beauty of all of that. You didn't have to do any of that. And so should we be surprised that it all led to a Grizzlies win? No. If only every game could be carried locally, and if only they could play a team like the Kings every night. For at least one night only, it was good to be a Grizz fan last night.
FanDuel will not be calling you to join the relations team at any point, is the takeaway for me on that.
Hey, yeah, you want a real treat? Get on any night the Preds or the Grizz are playing and just search FanDuel Sports Network. And that's all you need to know. It is the most cumbersome, godforsaken app on the planet for about 3 years running. So bad, Mo, that a lot of these NBA and NHL franchises have bought out the rights and are now producing their games locally. So, I mean, it is a real grim situation if you're not blessed, with DirecTV, one of the only few carriers that has those channels natively. But the simulcast last night, they're going to do a few more later this year, including one next week versus the Pelicans. The Grizz are in a little bit of a stretch here. It won't make much of a difference. They're probably still looking at play-in at best. Mm-hmm. But you got the Mavs coming up this weekend. You got the Pelicans, two of the worst teams besides yourself in the Western Conference. A chance to maybe get a little mojo going.
There we go. Middle Tennessee State's women looking for some mojo. University of Tennessee had some coming into Murphy Center last night. 85-40 final there, and it was never close. Possibly the worst loss in Lady Raider history, and that's unfortunate. We've talked about this team is kind of in a transition with a lot of youth on the floor for veteran coach Rick Insell, but that's a tough one to take there.
Yeah, take it on the chin. It'd been nice. The good news, we've talked about it on a number of different fronts. You're not really concerned with a loss or even a bad loss. That's just a game where, hey, if you'd have won, we'd really be talking about that as a potential resume booster for Middle at the end of the regular season. So not all's lost, whether Insell will never admit that and certainly doesn't feel it today. But in the grand scheme of things, you just move it up and move on and hopefully get back to good soon.
Absolutely. UT men, again, 89-60 over Tennessee State. But I saw that Tennessee turned it over 17 times in that loss, and I'm sure that that's something that another Rick Barnes will be reminding his guys of here between now and their next outing.
Keep things rolling. Clean up the turnovers, like you said. Games will increase in difficulty real quick. So be nice to clean some things up if you're a Vols fan, I would imagine.
Yeah. Vanderbilt 109, Texas Southern 74, as we mentioned during the rundown. One game that we did not mention in the rundown, though, and we talked about a little yesterday. Memphis goes to the Bahamas, takes on top-ranked Purdue, played the Boilermakers to within 9 in an 80-71 loss. And, I mean, there are no moral victories, but you got to feel pretty good about that showing against the top team in the country if you're Penny Hardaway, I would think.
You would think, a Memphis fan, sitting there at 1-3, they want to win. Memphis is unranked, but they think they're the number one team in the country. Memphis fans do every single year. So, they're upset. But, yeah, you're talking about one of the absolute best teams, if not number one, certainly in the top two, a team that, is going to be a favorite to cut down the nets in their home state of Indiana this year. So it will be a loss that maybe you just hopefully grow from. And the good news is probably right back into the thick of things. Versus Wake Forest here tonight at 6:00. So a chance to kind of redeem yourself versus a pretty good team in Wake.
No doubt. And so it'll be Purdue and Texas Tech in that championship game. Late night last night, for whatever, I guess while I was doing some writing, I came across the Big Ten Network. USC and Troy, the Trojan War, they were just starting the second overtime. It went 3. Troy had a 6-point lead in the third overtime, wound up falling 107-106 to USC. Second overtime game in 3 days for Troy, who had defeated San Diego State 108-107 in 2 overtimes on Tuesday. But, man, it's a great ball game if you were up late last night. And, Troy might be a team, a name to kind of file away for March coming out of the Sun Belt. They look pretty good despite the loss in 3 overtimes.
Yeah, hey, props to you. Let the record show, Mo, with the Big Ten Network. Never thought I'd see the day, ladies and gentlemen, but credit to you for pulling it. Little did I know, I was sitting there subjecting myself to Kansas State walloping Mississippi State last night after Thursday Night Football went off the air. Little did I know I could have flipped over and actually watched some compelling basketball. So good to hear. And, yeah, the buzzer beater instantly went viral last night.
Yeah, I mean – USC was looking for the tie, I think, and then lost the ball in the backcourt and had to kind of rush up a shot. And wound up getting up a 3-pointer to win it, but interesting matchup to say the least. Troy's got a redheaded kid, and I can't think of his name. Cooper Campbell. There we go. Keep that name somewhere as well. Finally, real quick, as we round out hour number 1 here of the weekend warm-up on Main Street Sports today, longtime Golden State Warriors assistant Chris DeMarco apparently has been named the New York Liberty's new head coach of the WNBA. Shams was first to report it, but everybody else is following suit. During his tenure with Golden State, Golden State won 4 NBA championships. So he is the new Liberty coach, replacing Sandy Brondello, who was let go at the end of the season and has since hooked on with the expansion Toronto tempo.
Best of luck to Coach DeMarco, right? A chance to, come in, maybe put your stamp in terms of head coaching ability. But as you just mentioned, better start winning some games and maybe even winning some championships pretty quick.
Yeah, because apparently the leash is short. I mean,
yeah,
the Liberty was 106 under Brondello. Never missed the playoffs, made 2 finals appearances, won the Champions Cup the year before that, and out on her keister at the end of this season. So, yeah, best of luck, Mr. DeMarco. Let's take a break as we wrap up hour number 1 here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports today for the Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll come back. We'll talk a little football. Stick around.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno. Again, biggest University of Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi. Looking forward to talking to him about UT's trip to the Swamp this weekend. Right now, though, let's talk a little professional football. Earlier today, it's a big shindig at Nissan Stadium 2.0 as they held their topping out ceremony. A number of luminaries on hand for that, including National Football League Commissioner Roger Goodell, who signed the final beam before it was put in place. And I feel like, Wade, that might be the biggest thing to happen with the Tennessee Titans in 2025.
For overall, yeah, no doubt. I mean, not just big for them, but obviously the city of Nashville in general, because when you got the commission town, when you got the new stadium, when he's throwing out breadcrumbs more and more about the Super Bowl coming to town, yeah, that is absolutely the biggest headline of the season. Outside of maybe, having 1-1 and drafting Cam Ward, you would think.
Yeah. I think if you are purely a football fan, you'd kind of like to see the focus be on the team, but right now, maybe it's best that it's not. We talked Seattle comes to town, to the original Nissan Stadium Sunday, and I mean, I don't know what you talk about this team at this point, and I've been in this position, been in that mindset for a minute here, just because even if they do win, big damn deal, right? I mean, it's just I don't guess it's a wasted year, but it's got to be a frustrating year if you are, looking for your team to be competitive.
If you're looking for the team to be competitive, we got to have you sit down and have an intervention, because that ship has been gone since about week 2 of the NFL season, right? I mean, it has been pretty clear for pretty long that this is not the season to kind of get your hopes up. And unfortunately, though, the real rationale or real logic is, to see evaluation and see some growth. And unfortunately, we kind of got incomplete at best for some of these positions and some of these key contributors. So kind of a lost season in a sense. You knew it wasn't going to be good. I mean, you're basically predicted to finish dead last at the start of the year in the AFC South. And so you were just hoping for little signs of positivity. As the resident Jets fan, I'm used to this. So, I mean, this is kind of nothing new. So, hey, we're right in the middle of it yet again. Now I'm getting a double dose in terms of Jets and Titans this year. But yes, not been great. They'll come in. They are, as we mentioned, massive underdogs. Coming off of a 4-interception game, Sam Darnold and the Seahawks are still favored by about now 14 points. I mean, this number's been climbing since earlier in the week. So people are lining up.
Yeah, I thought you said 12 yesterday.
Correct. Yeah, it's been rising. People are lining up to bet and put money on the Seahawks. And that's just because the defense for that team is absolutely top notch. Maybe not quite as good as the Texans, but they're still elite, and against a offense that has struggled even versus non-elite defenses, it kind of tells you the tale of the tape. The number gets big enough, and I mean, the Titans have covered, I believe, 3 of the last 4 weeks, which doesn't do much in terms of your win-loss record, but at least for the bettors of the world, they've gone home happy. But it is going to be a tough slog for them on Sunday at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, and Wade, we refer to Tankathon, and the Titans are in pretty good shape over there at this point, but yeah, that brings about another question as well. If this franchise gets the number 1 pick for a second straight year, do you trust this hierarchy to do the right thing with it?
Well, I mean, you made reference a couple weeks ago that taking the number 1 pick. If the Titans took the number 1 pick, then that would be, in my opinion, outright disaster. That would be, not trusting them to do the right thing. In theory, you're going to have a king's ransom to potentially be had. We just saw it a couple years ago with the Bears and the Texans, obviously, in that haul that went down on draft night. That's the goal. That's the logic. For a team that has 1 million holes, you're going to need 1 million draft picks to try and plug them. You won't hit them all, but at least if you got 100 chances, you can try and ding a couple of them, right? I mean, shotgun approach there. Yeah. That's the strategy. And to your point a minute ago, some other teams have done you favors in a weird way. We're inverted here when we talk about this. The Titans have done themselves favors by losing games, and then you've had some teams do them favors by winning games. But yeah, there's not a real reason to get excited and click your heels. It's not going to be sexy. And I mean, even if you get 4 picks, you're still talking about this time next year before you realistically have reason to get excited. So, I mean, it's not a great pick, and it's not a great rosy picture. as that building right next door continues to go higher and higher. That's the real goal, is you just want to be competitive by the time the new doors open.
As you said in the last segment regarding Chris DeMarco, good luck. Thursday night football last night, and you kind of warned us a little bit about this one. Houston with a 23-19 win over Buffalo. The Texans improving to 6-5. Buffalo slipping to 7-4, and that Texan defense, 8 sacks, 3 forced turnovers in that win.
Yeah, Texans truther. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks, right? And I mean, left on the side of the road a couple of weeks ago, and then even in the late third quarter when they're trailing by 19 points to the Jaguars, they come roaring back, and ever since then they can't lose. CJ Stroud is going to return, but man, oh man, has Davis Mills held down the fort admirably. 2 touchdowns last night. They kind of got a little sign of life in the run game too, but you don't need much when the defense is playing like that. Josh Allen turned over a couple different times with the interceptions, had a key strip on a fumble forced at the midfield, and you said they were pinning their ears back. That was the most times Josh Allen had been sacked in a game since he was sacked 6 times in the famous Aaron Rodgers knee injury game 2 years ago on opening night, 3 years ago, beg pardon. So, I mean, it has been a onslaught from this defense, and now all of a sudden you got a little sign of offense. Job well done by Davis Mills, and the Texans quietly back in the playoff picture.
And, it feels like one of Josh Allen's positive attributes is his escapability. You just wouldn't expect him to get sacked 8 times.
Had no time. I don't know if you saw, but I mean, he was getting swarmed. Will.I. Anderson, as I was calling him last night, he was tearing it up. And I mean, it was just pick your poison. You had Anderson going nuts. I mean, the entire defensive line was kind of just taking turns. We'll ask Christopher Gabriel about Tenry Tuoto. He even got in the mix there, the former Vol/Alabama legend. I mean, Anderson with 2.5 sacks, Tuoto with 1, Tim Settle, whoever that is, he got 1, and Derek Barnett. Yes, Derek Barnett kind of put a cherry on top right there at the end of the game too. They had Allen running for his life down the stretch. And so that made, the recipe kind of simple. Buffalo still had a chance, though, before that late interception sealed the game at about the 5-yard line.
Yeah. Tough loss for the Bills. It's a kind of, kind of feels like maybe things are going in the wrong direction for them, especially with the success that the Patriots are having at this point. So, tough loss for them, but Houston continuing to, show signs of life, like you said, behind that defense. And with Stroud set to probably come back a week from Sunday, they got to feel pretty good about where they are at this point. Jackson Dart expected to miss. Well, I think he's been pronounced out with concussion issues for the Giants' upcoming matchup on Sunday. So, insult to injury in the Big Apple.
Not for some, right? I mean, hey, we get another dose of Jameis Winston. That's the only reason to tune into a Giants game is when this guy's playing. Why else would you even be talking about him or bringing him up if we're not going to get the Jameis experience, baby? Sign me up.
The Giants at Detroit on Sunday with number Jameis Winston under center should be fun.
Detroit favored by 12.5. They will lose that game no matter who's the quarterback. But yes, be electric to see Jameis scrambling for his life against the Lions defense. He might even sneak in a touchdown, but it will be entertaining.
Well, you said Jameis, so entertaining just comes with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Lions, by the way, they desperately need that game. They haven't lost back-to-back games, Mo, in like 3 years under Dan Campbell, and they got trounced, by the Eagles. So a chance to really take out some frustrations. They need that game. And the Titans obviously need the Lions to knock off the Giants as well.
You need that game, and then your other 2 NFC North matchups are Chicago taking on the Steelers. Chicago leading the division at 7-3, and then you've got the Vikings and Packers going at it at noon on Sunday as well. Minnesota 4-6, Green Bay 6-3-1, and I'm not sure exactly where Matt LaFleur at this moment in terms of folks being hot or cold on him, but the Packers probably need to get a win there as well. So the NFC North of all things looking kind of interesting all of a sudden.
Yeah, and for different reasons, right? We thought the Lions would run away with it, perhaps. We thought the Packers, though, after week one, absolutely not. When they trounced the Lions on opening night, you're rewriting the script. Bears start off slow and then all of a sudden have caught fire. But the Vikings, a team that was right there battling for the division championship in week 17 last year, have really fallen off a cliff. And, this is a do or die game for two different reasons for these franchises between the Packers and Vikings. Everybody kind of lining up to write off the Vikings, and J.J. McCarthy saying some not so nice things, making you wonder what that situation looks like going forward. And as you alluded to on the other side of the sideline there, the Packers and LaFleur, if they fall short, this is a team, especially after that opening night performance versus Detroit, you are really going to wonder how things got sideways.
Yeah. He's the biggest UT fan west of the Mississippi, but he's also a huge Bears fan, so I'm sure he'll be weighing in when we go to him here after this break. Christopher Gabriel from KMJ Radio in Fresno set to join us as we continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today. Come back with us after this break.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Nashville's Nutcracker, presented by Nashville Ballet, returns to TPAC November 29th through December 28th. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets on sale at NashvilleBallet.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now, one of our favorite guests, Christopher Gabriel from KMJ Radio out of Fresno. Obviously, we're bringing him on to talk a little UT as they get ready to go to Florida this weekend. But over the course of the show, I think he's probably developed some other things that he wanted to touch on. So, Christopher, welcome in. The floor is yours.
Hey, gentlemen, it's great to see you. We sort of missed each other the last couple of times. That was because of me, knee surgery, and a couple of other things. But it's great to be back. I love coming on with both you and Wade. I was listening to Noah earlier, and I was really fascinated by that discussion about Tennessee Tech and about FCS because, as we both know, my first big radio job as a host, as a daily host, was in Fargo, North Dakota. So I covered the North Dakota State Bison. And that was when they had just made the transition from Division II, where in Division II, they won 5 national championships. They came into Division I. Gene Taylor, who is now the athletic director at Kansas State, that's why Chris Kleiman is their coach there, Gene Taylor was a regular guest of mine in Fargo. And here's why I'm bringing this up. Nobody draws like North Dakota State in FCS except for Montana, because Montana has a bigger stadium. But the Fargo Dome is a great place. And I took my show down to Frisco for the second and third championships. It was against Sam Houston State and Towson, and excitement was at a peak. It was at a fever level up in Fargo. And then they won a fourth one and a fifth and sixth. So right about then, though, before I left, I raised the point, much to the frustration of most fans there, they're going to have to decide if they want to make the jump up to FBS. Gene Taylor used to always say, we, meaning NDSU, we will stay in FCS until all of our main competitors, the James Madisons and so on, leave. Well, most of them have left. Most of the big ones have left. And I think what's happening now in Fargo, guys, is that the window for now has closed. They weren't aggressive. They weren't aggressive when there was interest from the Mountain West. There was interest from the MAC. They never had interest in the MAC, but there was thought about coming out to here as a football-only school, and now that window has shrunk and it's almost nil. And I'm really wondering if they're going to actually be able to get out of there, because when you've won 10 FCS titles, what else are you going to do? I mean, every time the D1 FBS team, with the exception of Colorado a couple years ago, they beat them. They've beaten Minnesota. They've beaten Iowa, Iowa State, Kansas State. They beat everybody. But now they're kind of stuck there, guys.
Interesting dilemma. I mean, you don't want to think that you can have too much success, but, maybe to that point, maybe the window is starting to close on them a little bit. Maybe, and there is something to striking while the iron is hot. So that'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on with NDSU, particularly here as we come down the stretch to the playoffs and get into the playoffs that will culminate again here in Nashville at Vanderbilt's First Bank Stadium. Christopher, playoffs, that was probably the only mention of them that there will be in this segment, because as Tennessee gets ready to go to Florida, there is no scenario that gets Tennessee back into the playoff picture. And I know some folks are disappointed with that, but I mean, when you've not beaten anybody with a winning record, that's kind of what you get.
When you started talking there, and there was a moment where you paused for like 3 or 4 seconds, and that's what we all do when the Vols are getting ready to play Florida. There's that pause, and then the videotape of every nightmare in Gainesville runs through our heads at warp speed. You can't tell me that didn't happen briefly for you right there.
It's no matter how good Tennessee is or how bad Florida is, you could never get too confident, particularly going south for this ball game. Tennessee ranked number 20 in this week's college football rankings. They're 7-3 on the year. The Gators 3-7. They are under an interim coach, but Tennessee always seems to do something in this game. Again, particularly in Gainesville. For them.
I'm sorry, forgive my interruption. It is a mystery to me. I was thinking about the 1995 game. Vols are up 30-14, and then suddenly 48 unanswered points later, they aren't. Or they've got Florida. I think it was 2016, 4th and 14, 1:39 to go. The Vols are up, I think, 6. It should be game over. Instead, Antonio Callaway gets loose in between 3 guys, sails down the sideline, game over. And then, of course, in Knoxville even, and I was at this game back in 1996, when it's 35-0, 5 minutes into the second quarter, it was 4th and 7 from the 35, the Tennessee 35. Spurrier, in a driving downpour, decides to go for it all. And what do you get? You get Werfel to Riddell Anthony for the touchdown. I leaned over to my brother-in-law. It was 7-0. I leaned over to my brother-in-law and said, game over.
Okay.
Game over. So you're so right. the Vols down over the years, going back to the Spurrier years, I would say more often than not, Florida probably had a little bit more talent, but there were times that the Vols had as much or maybe a little bit more. That's never mattered. I wrote a joke, something of a joke, but maybe not quite fully a joke, guys, about how I see the first series, offensive series happening for the Vols. It'll be, they'll be on their 23-yard line. Joey to Brazel, 77 yards to the house. Hold on, flag. False start. And then it's 3 and out. The Vols punt, 71-yard punt return. It's 7-0 Florida. It's some sort of nutty version like that always happens. I don't know what it is, but this program, this football program, is in a good place right now. I know a lot of Vols fans are upset. You mentioned playoffs. They're not going to the playoffs. I've seen some things up about here's the 71 scenarios that ain't happening. It's just not happening. Try to finish 9-3 and get to the Citrus Bowl, and that won't be a lost season. But I don't know what happens. It seems like year to year, these players, coaches, whomever is wearing orange and white on the field or on the sideline, they hear the noise. They know what has happened before them, and it's almost like, fellas, like subconsciously, they're waiting for something to happen. Something bad's going to happen because, gosh darn it, every other year something does happen that's bad.
Hey, and that's my question, Chris. Even in this transfer portal era, how does it seemingly still permeate? It's like you said, they just somehow know, even though they haven't been on campus for 6 months.
Yeah, Wade, you're right. Right, it makes no sense. And I made the point the other day to some folks, and I made it on KMJ as well, that you look at, just pick a few names out: Aguilar, Matthews, Staley, Brazel. These guys have not played in the swamp. So there's no history there. They've played in big, loud places. They've gone to Georgia. They've been to Alabama, Mississippi State. If you want to count 50,000 cowbells, okay, fair enough. But they've been in front of these kinds of environments. And Florida crowds, and I've been to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, and you guys know this, Florida crowds, when they get down, they're like the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium. Their fans tune out. They're done. Their fans, their spirit can be broken like that. But it doesn't matter who's playing. Transfer portal guys, anybody. It just seems to permeate or become pervasive every year. So I keep waiting, Wade, for the Vols to go down there and somebody make a huge play early. I can't remember the Vols ever starting out with a 10 or 14-point lead down there. I'm thinking back decades, and I truly cannot remember.
If you're Aguilar, you need to be in contact with Casey Clausen this week ASAP,
yes.
Right? Because whatever good juju he had, that's the only good juju that has ever been seen since down there. Christopher, with that being said, obviously we know the history, we know the horrors, but in terms of Tennessee getting the win, what is the one maybe key to this game as far as, other than, a fast start? What schematically is one advantage in Tennessee's favor in your mind, at least?
Well, I think they need to, how many times do we say this, fellas? They need to control the line of scrimmage. This is an area that Florida has more often than not dominated. And Josh Heupel wants to establish the run. I get that. I don't believe, I've watched Florida 5 times this year. I really don't believe they don't have a secondary this year like they've had in the past. They just don't. Not that these guys can't play, but I really think you establish the run. Josh Heupel, if they establish the run and start trying to extend the field, in particular with Brazel or with Staley, I don't think that Florida's DBs can stay with them. And in fact, when you think about this year, guys, you look at the Alabama game, the Georgia game, and the Oklahoma game, more often than not, they were running routes where they were wide open. And when I say wide open, I mean they had 3 or 4 yards of separation. It's been there all year, and Joey has managed to hit them. I think that they need to be able to do that. And also, Wade, I think that Josh Heupel, and there seems to be some debate on this point, and frankly, I don't know why. Josh Heupel seems to have found a conservative gear in his game plan when he goes out, as opposed to what he was doing in 2022, where if he had Missouri down by 30, he wanted them down by 40. And I think there needs to be a certain level of controlled chaos down in the swamp, where I think this coach for Florida, he's on his way out. You go and try to bury this guy. Don't worry about anybody's feelings. Go and try to bury this guy and come out with an absolutely aggressive game plan and try to break that team's spirit. Because I believe, Wade, one of the things that's key here early on, this is a 3-6, whether 3-7 right now. This is a team that if the Vols can get a lead on, and that's asking a lot right off the bat down in the swamp, but if the Vols can get a lead on, I do believe you can have a lot of guys on that Florida team. This is not going to be a game that's going to make or break their season.
Yeah.
That's not what this game is this year. And if you get a lead on them, I think some of those guys are going to be like, later for this, man. That's, we're done. This season's done. It's cooked. Late. And I think the Vols could pour it on. But if it goes the way it normally does, that's not going to happen.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports today. You talked about the last time that Tennessee jumped on Florida early, and, Wade mentioned Casey Clausen, and it clicked. 2001, the game that got rescheduled to December, they got up 14-0, eventually won 34-32, but I had to go back and kind of check. Florida roared back into that one and made it a ball game even at that point. But to your point, you kind of got to throw a punch early, and it's got to connect early, just maybe to give you some confidence early on.
Well, you're right, Mo, and I think while you want to establish a run, I do think you need to look to throw a haymaker. You need to get somebody down, and he's not going to get counted out. They're not going to get counted out in the first quarter, but you need them to hit the mat and have the ref standing there counting. Because I think that I'm getting an idea that there's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans in this stadium. Maybe a little bit more than normal, than that normal section on that one corner of the stadium. And anything that the Vols can do early, I think is going to be helpful. And how many times do we say it's going to be important to get an early lead? This is that game. I mean, if there's a game that they need to get an early lead, generally every 2 years, it's when they go to Gainesville, and they rarely do that, as you just pointed out. But I think they need to hit them hard. I don't think we need to see, when the Vols get the predictable false start penalty and suddenly it's 1st and 15, we do not need to see 3 runs up the middle.
Yeah,
we just don't need to see that. Play with some reckless abandon, because the worst thing that happens is this program ends up 7-5 if they lose to Vandy next week. That's another story entirely. For lack of a better phrase, fellas, you have nothing to lose. You're not going to the college football playoff. There is no scenario when you lose to Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia. As you said, Mo, at the top, you've lost every game to the 3 toughest teams. Had they made 1 field goal, had David Sanders not missed a block, there's so many different things. Doesn't matter. Like Pat Hill says here, you are what your record says you are.
And, Christopher, the other thing that's disappointing, and Mo as well, the disappointing thing is, this game's basically been played in September since the dawn of time, or at least, since the early 90s. And finally, it felt like, man, if these two teams produce some real magical moments, this could be the all-time game between these two squads. And here we sit as maybe the least hyped or least talked about Tennessee-Florida game in quite some time.
Boy, oh boy. How many over the years? Over the years, you can't say that emphatically enough, Wade. I used to always say, why is a game of this magnitude being played in the 3rd or 4th week of September? And then that one game that Mo referenced, because I think that was the year that Reagan got shot, wasn't it?
No, that was 9/11.
9/11, 9/11. My mistake.
Yeah.
How can we forget
fine.
that? My gosh, 9/11. Jesus, that is a CGP $25 fine. But that game getting moved, that was a classic. I mean, that game was unbelievable. Both teams had worked out the kinks. They had found their rhythm. They had found their depth charts the way they wanted them to be. And then, now, I mean, I don't know. I'm sensing not nearly the interest because of the records, because nobody's really going anywhere. The Vols are going to go to a bowl game, but is it the Citrus? Is it the CarQuest Acorn Bowl? I mean, what's it going to be?
Right, and that's unfortunate. Is that one of the unintended consequences of the playoff?
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think that it makes the regular season, worthless. I mean, I think a lot of folks are saying playoff or bust. Well, the goal is to get to the playoff, and the goal is in men's basketball, women's basketball, the goal is to get to March. I do think though that when you start looking around a little bit, this idea that the playoff is going to stay at 12 is not. It's not. It's going to expand probably to 16. Listen, I wouldn't mind seeing it go to 24 the way they do in FCS. It's great fun. It's exciting. But I do think that, it's a coin flip here, Mo. On the one hand, you can lose a game early and still be very much in play for the playoff now that it's 12 teams and not 4. By the same token, because you lose a couple of games, losing 2 games is not going to guarantee you to get into the playoff. You lose 3, you're done. Well, unless your name is Notre Dame or Texas, you're basically done. And then you have to get, how many of your players are going to be excited to play in a bowl game? You hope that they're going to be, right? Because they get one more chance to, if they're a senior especially, and not everybody's going to go pro, you get one more chance to wear that jersey. You get one more chance, 60 more minutes to go out there and show what you can do. I would think that's a cool thing. Not all players think that way, though.
It seems so. Given Joey Aguilar's performance against Oklahoma, not his last time out because that was New Mexico State, but in the last game that really mattered, is he a guy that's kind of got to come out with a chip on his shoulder to some degree tomorrow, you feel like?
Oh, I really do. I was in town for the Oklahoma game. I was at the 20-yard line. I had some really nice seats thanks to a good friend. And I was able to, the first time I had a chance to really see Joey up close and personal. And unfortunately, he's a great kid. I love how he is on the field, how he comports himself. I love how he's been in the Knoxville community with kids, with the Children's Hospital, with everything, with the UT Medical Center. But I think we need to see a side of him, Mo, that is, we might not see it facially, but I think we need to see a little nastiness.
Yeah.
I think we need to see a guy that, as you said, comes out with a chip on his shoulder. It's like, my last big game, I didn't really do so well. And he didn't. And he owned it and so on. It's not just him, right? It's 21 other guys. But I think he needs to come out. Let me put it to you this way. He can come out and in many ways, not that he hasn't already solidified a place in Tennessee football history by what he's done, and his numbers are great, but he can really make an infinite name for himself by being the guy that goes down and breaks the streak in the swamp. And if he does it with a plum, if he does it with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, does a little bit of nastiness, if the Vols are blessed to have a day where he has 4 or 5 touchdown passes, no one will ever forget the name Joey Aguilar. And I think, Mo, again, to your point, he needs to come out with that kind of attitude.
Earlier in the week, we got word, and we had Ben McKee on to talk about this. Boo Carter no longer a part of the UT program. Ben seemed to feel like this would be addition by subtraction. Where do you sit on this?
On Boo being out, gone?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I think this is an area that Josh Heupel's a nice guy, right? He's a nice guy. Can you imagine if Boo Carter was doing this stuff? Not necessarily given all the. We've all watched the tape. You can point to moments that he shouldn't have fair catched on how many. I found a framed picture of him signed on eBay of him fair catching a punt. I mean, we've seen that. Can you imagine him doing that for Saban? I mean, he would never see the field the next game. I wonder sometimes if a guy's attitude, his fellow players know best, and they know how much effort a guy is or isn't giving. We all played sports. We knew the guys on our teams, whatever sport it was, that were always giving everything they had, even in a game that we weren't going to win. We knew who was going to give the effort. It seemed like he had mentally checked out. I know that early on we were hearing that from Josh Heupel that he's being a good teammate. He's doing it. He says that about everybody. A guy can have the entire bottom half of his body not working, and Josh Heupel will say, he's out there, he's working hard. Right? We get a lot of that from him. It's year 5, Josh. I'm a fan, I'm a supporter, but it's year 5. We know Josh Heupel speak. I think that at this point, Boo Carter, and I'm just saying this from a distance, from 2,300 miles west, I just think he's more of a distraction mentally as well as anything else. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that I think this team is going to be better off without him, because whoever is going to be returning punts, whoever is going to be taking his place in the defense, whomever is going to be out there knowing that he's there and he has a chance to really make a statement, because Boo never made a statement this year.
That seems to be the consensus. Aside from UT Florida, there's a couple of other significant matchups across the Southeastern Conference this weekend, including Kentucky coming to Nashville, taking on Vanderbilt. We mentioned Vanderbilt. Obviously, they go to Knoxville next week in the regular season finale. But big for Vanderbilt in particular as they try to climb up those college football playoff rankings. Kentucky 5-5 coming in. Got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if Vandy doesn't boat race them right out of Nashville. I just, Kentucky had their game against Florida. Yay, we're happy for them. That's a 3-7 team that you beat big. Vandy has been so impressive. I mean, you can make it's not even an argument. You can make the case that they could have or should have, maybe not should have, but could have beaten Alabama when they went down to Tuscaloosa. This is a football team that is so well coached, and the guys are out there. They understand their assignments. They do things the right way. From when I've seen them, the two or three times that I've seen them this year, they don't seem to beat themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they don't make mistakes, but they make very few, and that is a credit to Clark Lee and his staff. I think that Vandy sees what's in front of them, and they are at a point where it'll be a game next week for sure with Tennessee. And that's going to be kind of a cool thing to see Vandy being the one that has something major to play for. But I don't think that Vandy, every man on that team and every fan in that stadium, there'll be a lot of fans in blue in that stadium. They travel. Everybody talks about how well Kentucky travels. It's because nobody wants to be in Kentucky. But I just can't see Vandy letting that opportunity. You think that was a shot against Kentucky? Okay. I don't think Vandy's not going to let this shot at them get away. The potential chance of getting to the playoffs, I think Vandy absolutely runs them out of the stadium Saturday. I really do.
No thought of a look ahead spot in your mind for Vanderbilt then?
No, I really don't think so. It's a great question, Wade, but I don't think so. You know what? If this was maybe 4 or 5 games earlier, I think that's an absolute valid thought. But we are now at the end, and everything is, it's right there in front of Vandy. And I just don't see them, the way they have played, the way they are coached, I just don't see them letting this one get away. They seem to embody the let's be 1-0 this week. And I think that's what we're going to see from Vanderbilt when they come out tomorrow.
Missouri at Oklahoma. Speaking of teams kind of looking to get a push heading into the playoffs, Oklahoma 8-2, the number 8 team in the rankings. Missouri 22nd at 7-3.
I think that'll be a pretty good game. These are a couple of old friends that go back to the days, when they were in the old Big 12, Big 10, and so on. I think Missouri will play well, but this team with Mateer is obviously a very, very different team. We saw that in Knoxville. We certainly saw that with them at Alabama. Missouri is a good team. Eli Drinkwitz, for all of his, I don't want to say zaniness, at times it's arrogance. At other times, it's just like, what? I'm sorry, what did he just say? He's a pretty good coach, and I think that they'll definitely give Oklahoma a game. But I don't see Oklahoma slipping up here. My gosh, you had the daily double of them coming into Knoxville, them going to Tuscaloosa, and now they've got Missouri coming in. I don't see Missouri walking out of there with a W.
That's been the craziest thing, Christopher. Coming in this preseason, we talked about how difficult the schedules were for Florida in particular and Oklahoma in particular. We know what's happened to Florida, but somehow, some way, Oklahoma has navigated maybe one of the toughest schedules in the entire country, and they're right on the cusp, to use your point a minute ago, from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's interesting, Wade, is that it seems to me, and I don't know how many would agree with this, but it seems to me that, at least in the media, the people that I know, we got so caught up in looking at Mateer, we forgot that they've got other guys.
Yeah.
They've got other talent on that team that's pretty darn good. And we saw it in Knoxville. We saw it in Tuscaloosa. We've seen it all season long. So I think, and I think that's part of the point that I was making a minute ago, that when Mateer was out, Mateer is that guy that makes everybody better. And it's an overused phrase, but he really does. And he not only does it with his arm, but he does it with his legs. I mean, he is sneaky fast. And he's very elusive when he gets in the open field. And that just makes, guys just line up to block for him when he takes off. So they have this wonderful weapon in him. And so he does make everybody better. And I think because of that, we've seen the layers or the depth of talent that Oklahoma has that maybe some of us, me at the head of the list, did not necessarily give enough credence to.
In a classic Big Ten matchup this weekend, number 15 Southern Cal goes to number 7 Oregon.
Let me tell you. So I have friends that cover both teams. And even though I'm a lifelong Tennessee fan, I think you both know I went to USC. I've been to Autzen Stadium multiple times. That is a very difficult place to play. Anybody who goes there, people are like, well, it's not as loud as Neyland. It's deafening. It's not as loud as Neyland. Who cares? It's deafening.
Mm-hmm.
Those fans at that stadium, they are as close, if not a couple of feet closer to the field than fans in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in the Swamp. Oregon, if you've watched them, and it's funny because on my show this week, I have a guy named Justin Phillips on. He works for KPNW Sports in Eugene. And him and I have been friends for years. And one of the things you notice about Oregon, they have speed everywhere. Everywhere. I don't know how they continue to do it. So I asked him, and he said, when you watch an Oregon practice, part of their practices are speed drills. They do any number of different exercises during, not like, calisthenics, but different types of routines to enhance and increase guys' speed. And as many times as I think that Tennessee's speed has gotten better, or you look at Alabama, nobody has the speed they have. And obviously, they haven't won a national championship. Fine, a lot of teams haven't won a national championship, but I don't think that USC can contend. As USC has some elite speed, they don't have the speed that Oregon has. And I don't think that USC, they're calling this the biggest game in Oregon football history. I think that's going too far. They've had a couple of other games that have been bigger than this game. In fact, they've had a couple of other USC games that have been pretty big. But
hey, Christopher, it was just a couple weeks ago, they told us the same thing about their game at Penn State, right? I mean, right. Penn State was number 5 in the country, and they went there and beat them.
Exactly. By the way, my friend that I was telling you about, Justin Phillips, his alma mater, Penn State.
Wow.
But I don't think, fellas, I don't think that USC is going to go into Oregon and win this game. I just don't. Oregon is so good at home, offensively, defensively. They're so good in special teams. They're elite. They as talented as SC is. Oregon has got them at pretty much every position, and I see Oregon winning this game.
Christopher Gabriel from KMJ Radio in Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Christopher, appreciate your time as always. Hopefully enjoy the game tomorrow, and we will catch up.
Yeah, may I say one thing before we go? You were talking about the Bears, and of course I'm born and raised Chicagoan. I have to tell you, I've not been able to make jokes about them now anymore because you have a fourth quarter comeback, you have a second one, but when you have 5, and the guy that I hosted the Fresno State pregame show with for years here was the starting safety on the Brian Urlacher defense, Cam Worrell. And as he said, when you have 5, that is showing you have belief in the system, you have belief in your coach, your coaches, and you have belief in each other. The Bears aren't going to be a Super Bowl contender, but I do think, they were 4-6 at this point last year. they finally are starting to maybe see the corner and get close to rounding it as a franchise, because they've been an embarrassment. I can't make jokes with them like I make jokes with the White Sox. So I can't do that.
Hey, yeah, remember this time last year, that Thanksgiving game versus the Lions where things absolutely crumbled. They looked like they were right there on the cusp of victory, and then that kind of signaled the end of Eberflus there. So, I mean, what a difference a year makes. You deserve the right to dream a little bit there, Christopher.
I would argue the Hail Mary against Washington, where one of the Bears players
also a strong contender.
Yeah, just so anyway, it's good. I know that you guys are fully behind your Tennessee Titans, and you guys have had no problems there in that franchise at all.
None.
Looking
None
good
at all. Yeah.
Hey guys,
we're going back to back, baby.
Appreciate the invite. It's always, I love coming on with you guys.
We appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Right on, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Matt, Mark, we rolling?
Let's roll.
Let's roll. Let's roll into the final segment here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, which is the Wonder Slate, as Wade and I give you our 10 college football winners from the upcoming weekend. So, with no further ado, Wade, the floor is yours.
Let's roll into it, Mo. And we mentioned earlier that the Wonder Slate, man, where is the time gone, folks? Week 13. All of our odds each and every single week are brought to you by our friends at the Circa Sportsbook and their partnership with the Mint Gaming Hall right across the border up there in Kentucky. We get a little Friday night football, Mo. Whether you're going to a high school game or not, you can still tune in. There's another game. I won't mention those ACC programs, but there's a bigger game that we can pick tonight. We got Hawaii making the trip to Vegas to take on UNLV. UNLV is favored by 2.5. This is a 9:30 kickoff on FS1.
I'm going to go with the Rebels just because they're at home, I think. Let's go with UNLV here.
I'm taking UNLV too. Dan Mullen, they were whispering about playoff contention a couple weeks ago. Maybe that's not going to work out. But yeah, Hawaii is a sneaky pick, but I'm taking UNLV. Let's not get cute on our very first game, right? Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot going into Saturday. Because Saturday we got a massive slate, at least in terms of the Wonder Slate. Not the sexiest of games. This is a week where you maybe show your family some love before Thanksgiving, and then you can duck them when you really need to next week.
There you go.
But we kick it off with the game we just talked about, Christopher. Number 22, Missouri, is at number 8, Oklahoma. It's 11 a.m. kick on ABC, and OU is favored by 6.5.
I like that number, but I think Oklahoma's about 10 points better in this ball game. I'm going with the Sooners here.
I'm picking Mizzou just for the simple fact I have not picked Oklahoma correct much this year. I did have them covering. I didn't pick them winning, but I did have them covering last week versus Bama. So I can't pick Oklahoma again just because that's the way the world works. I got to go Mizzou this week. I think it'll be a close game. But give me the Tigers on the road in this one. Also at 11 a.m., SMU is a 2.5-point favorite taking on Louisville. This game kicks off at 11 a.m. on ESPN2 as SMU still clings to life for ACC championship game title hopes.
Yeah, and I think this game helps them along those lines. I think Louisville's got some injuries that they're dealing with, a couple of running backs and a linebacker as well. I like SMU, especially in Dallas in this one.
I'm taking Louisville. They've got a weird deal going on where they play well on the road this year. They've lost a couple games at home, but they're playing well on the road. I think that maybe continues. SMU maybe looking ahead, and we'll see. But give me Louisville in this one just for a little spry result here. Another game we just mentioned with Christopher Gabriel. Number 15 USC at number 7 Oregon. The line is up to 10.5. It's a 2:30 kick in CBS in that Big Ten showdown.
Man, double digits kind of concerns me in this ball game. I like Oregon. I'm not sure if I like them by 11, basically. I think I'm going to go with them though, but I'm going with them with some trepidation. Let's say that.
I agree with that, but I'm taking USC just because, USC, Oregon desperately wants this game, but USC absolutely has to have this game. And, they're not going to win, but they can cover 10.5, I think. Give me USC. And we are deprived, Mo. Why is this not the big noon kickoff? I want these teams playing at 10 a.m., right? Give Give me the 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. Kickoff time out there on
Right.
the West Coast. We're a little deprived there, giving us at 2:30. Also at 2:30, old school battle. Arkansas is at number 17. Texas is a 6.5 point favorite in this 2:30 ABC showdown.
Man, I feel like Arkansas could be spicy enough to cover this, but I'm gonna go with Texas, but it's not as shaky to me as the Oregon pick, but I'm not real sold on it. But give me the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'm taking Texas as well, but you're right. Arkansas could easily be in this mix. Heard a stat this week, Mo. You know, Arkansas's won 2 games this year. They somehow still have a positive point differential. They have been in some weird games, and none of them have gone their way. They're maybe due for one, but this ain't the week. I'll take Texas with you at 6.5. Up next, Kentucky at Vanderbilt, number 14 in the land, the Commodores. If nothing else, this might be the last time we get to say that, right? 8.5 points to good, and they kick it off at 2:30 on ESPN.
Yeah, I think I like Vanderbilt by double digits. I feel kind of like Christopher was just saying. I just think Vandy's kind of got their eye on the prize right now, and I'm not sure what Kentucky can do to keep them from it. I think again, double digits here. I feel like
I'm taking Vanderbilt as well, but man, I want to pick Kentucky because, you know, we talked with Noah earlier. They basically had a bye week last week, right? I mean, you got everybody rested for a big SEC game. Even saying all that, I don't know that they cover. I like Vanderbilt minus 8.5. Up next, Mo, I got to order chronologically out, so I apologize for that. But how could I forget the biggest game on the slate, maybe the biggest game in the country? Shame on game day for not going to the Brawl of the Wild, the 124th meeting in the Brawl of the Wild. It's number 2 Montana, already been referenced on this show, hosting number 3 Montana State, but it's Montana State favored by 1.5 in a 1 p.m. kickoff on ESPN+.
that's kind of crazy to me that the visiting team is favored in a matchup of top 3 teams. I'm gonna go with host Montana in this one. You know, my depth of knowledge on FCS, particularly FCS in the Great Northwest or the Great Plains or whatever that is not deep, but I'm going to go with the host team.
I'm taking Montana State, and I got some friends, and loved ones out in Missoula, so I'm sorry to pick against your Grizz there, but I'm taking Montana State, who got boat raced by Oregon in the first game of the season, but they've won every one since. I like them to get the win on the road there. Fun one at 1 p.m. on ESPN+. Up next, night games now. 6 p.m. showdown on ESPN. Pitt is at number 16, Georgia Tech, and the Yellow Jackets are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I like the Yellow Jackets. I've been a fan of what Brent Key has done down in Atlanta here for the past couple of years. Don't know if we're seeing some of his last games there before he moves on, but I like Georgia Tech here.
I like Georgia Tech, but I got to pick Pitt. Ancient rule, Mo. Pitt will lose when you think they're supposed to win, and they will win when they're supposed to lose. They got embarrassed by Notre Dame in the biggest game of the season last week. But Pat Narduzzi, remember, he told us, he said, we're fine losing that game as long as we can beat Georgia Tech next week. So I like Pitt to cover this number and probably win this game. Throw a little extra wrinkle into an already chaotic ACC showdown. Ancient ACC rule with Pitt there.
There we go.
Continuing along, speaking of ancient rivalries, Big 12 showdown between BYU and Cincinnati. Yes, a Big 12 brawl here. 6 p.m. on Fox, and the Cougs, number 11 in the country, are favored by 2.5.
Man, the Cougs coming east. It's not a big number, though. And I was kind of on the Bearcat bandwagon there for a bit, but they've let me down here a little bit of late. I'm going to go with BYU here.
Yep, my exact logic. You burned me a couple times too many, Cincinnati. This is a pure spite pick. Give me BYU by 1 million after Cincinnati let me down a couple times earlier this season. I'm on the Cougs. Finally, we close. Not the biggest game on the slate by any means, but I mean, hey, it's Tennessee at Florida. We at least got to mention it. The Vols are ranked number 20 in the land, and they're favored by 4.5. A 6:30 showdown, Mo.
Good Lord. I can't do it. Give me Florida.
Enough said. That's my logic too. How else?
That's going to do it for the Wonder Slate. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back and join us Monday at 2 o'clock. Y'all have a great weekend.